Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TicketLiquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
And when I say you will feel this way and it's okay, if you're not feeling, you're not living.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing is it's okay. It's okay. You're not alone.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you said, Mariette, everyone sees, I was getting text messages of you're living the dream. And well, no, I just broke down an hour ago because I took the bus that was an hour late and then I missed the train. So then I missed my boat. It doesn't matter that I put the 3 methods of transportation together meticulously the day before.
Right.
It happens. It's okay. And for me, like you said, like it was compounded on like life. It's life.
Yeah.
It's life.
So stressful.
Mariette's on the move.
What?
Mariette's on the move.
Again?
Mariette's on the move.
If you're dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I have a friend of mine on the show today who I have known for over 10 years, I think like 13 years now, and I met her in the most adorable way, and it completely gives you an awesome window into her personality. So I met Holly Savage, who is on the show today. She and I were on a bus together, and I was talking to the man next to me, and he was speaking French to somebody on the phone, and he got off the phone, and I said, are you from France? Are you from here? You just speak French? And he said something like, originally I was, but, and he asked me if I speak French, and I said, un petit peu, and he just, basically we were talking, and he asked me like, where I was going, and I said, I'm starting a new job today at the company that I work for now, which I won't say. And all of a sudden I get a tap on the shoulder, and Holly said, oh my gosh, do you need help? I work there. I'd love to show you around. And like her and I just sparked a conversation. The older gentleman smiled, and her and I started talking. He got off the bus, she sat down, and we have been friends since. And that just gives you just a snippet into her personality. She is one of the most welcoming, giving, just so much fun, so much good energy, just awesome human being. But she has traveled around the world over the course of the last couple of years. And she has gone from living in Melbourne to Chicago now. And we're going to talk a little bit about her journey, because I think this is the stuff that's important to hear, because it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And moving can suck, but it can also be amazing. So Holly, thank you so much for coming on the show. I love that we're having this conversation.
Thank you for having me, and the bright reminder of how we met.
And I know, right?
Yeah.
It was in 2010, because that's when I started that job. And what she didn't know at the time is that I had already worked at CDW for I said it. Sorry. But I had already worked there for so long, but I had left and come back. Like I was living in New York City, and I had moved to Chicago, which was huge. And I didn't even have a car yet, because I literally had just moved, and I didn't New York City, obviously. So, but yeah, we've been friends that whole time, and it's been so fun to watch your journey. Like if you get on her Instagram, you can see her in a headstand in different countries.
Find something you love and do it everywhere.
And you're good at it. But you have lived, so in the last couple of years, so, you and I met obviously in Chicago. We hung out in Chicago, and then I've kind of moved around since then. But in the last couple of years, you've kind of traveled all over the world, and I know that's something like that's a dream that people have had. So can you talk a little bit about like kind of what kicked that off? What, where all you went? Because I mean, it's just such a cool story. Like you're living like most people's dream.
Yeah, so I love culture. I've always loved to travel. I try to do it in between corporate jobs. I take some time off so that I can wing it a bit. And just over a year ago, I decided, you know what? I'm going to quit. I'm not going to accept this next corporate job, and I am just going to take off. And my intentions were to really see, I've been corporate at that point for maybe 13, 14 years. I was raised in a very corporate family with my father being a corporate executive. So there was really one path to take. And I had worked really hard. Work was my number one priority. Work was my husband. And it was time for me to really take a step back and figure out, is this even who I am? So it was a really, really difficult decision to make. And one of the first things I realized is it's a difficult decision to make because Americans don't make them. But the minute
we always work, we have our 2 weeks of vacation, and that's all we take. Like Europeans, like most other cultures have a couple months off of work a year and they explore, and we just don't do that.
Yeah. So it's that's kind of how it started. It's been a dream of mine. It was initially going to be 3 months. So, yeah. So I had conversations with mentors, with C-level exec customers saying, okay, if I came back in 3 months with a 3-month gap on my resume, what would you think? I was like, 3 months is okay. And it's funny, I keep hearing one of my former customers going, well, 3 months, it would be fine. But if it were like a year, and here I am at like 15 months, I think
you're like, I'm still okay.
Today couldn't be bothered, which I know we'll get more into that. I mean, depends when you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where all did you go?
So I was not in a hurry. I stopped in Italy to see one of my, so my dream was I want to meet all of my friends' kids that I've never met.
That's adorable.
It was always, if I won the lottery, what would you do? I would go around the world and meet all my friends' husbands and kids that I've never met.
And you have friends all over the world.
I do.
Much, like all over,
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. And then I studied abroad in Australia.
Right.
Yeah, and I have been back for those weddings. So I started in Italy and saw 2 of my close friends there, met their kids, and then Thailand.
Your pictures from Thailand are amazing, and I never really put it on the bucket list until I saw your pictures, and then I was like, oh man, I need to go.
Do you know it was never on mine either?
Really?
No, Asia was always quite intimidating to me. Just different characters in the alphabet, different, like,
I don't speak the language,
about as foreign as you could get. Like, maybe Russian doesn't have like our alphabet, but it's connected to places that do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't on mine either.
Wow. So
Thailand for 2 months. I did a little 2 weeks in Cambodia because I wanted to see Siem Reap and Angkor Wat.
what are those?
It is like the Machu Picchu. It's an ancient civilization from the Asian Empire that is just massive. You can't get around it by foot. World renowned. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And it's
history, and the more I learn about history, the more I feel like we are so young as a country.
beyond.
Thousands and thousands of years in Egypt, and
Yeah.
Machu Picchu is on my list for sure.
It's
That's
jaw-dropping.
is it?
Yeah.
Huh.
Jaw-dropping.
Go.
Yeah. Then I went to Philippines for a month. I did.
People in these places?
No.
Okay. So
I
you even like think like to me, I look at it like, the fear-based side of me is like, what if I, get a hotel in a bad neighborhood, or like, that's how I think, but that's probably how I'm conditioned to think.
No, I mean, that's valid and should be listened to. Yeah, and you should do research before you just show up, but don't get analysis paralysis.
Yeah. And a lot of these places are less expensive to stay in, right?
Yeah.
And you can get hostels, and people forget about hostels. Hostels are an amazing opportunity for you to go in, meet people from all over the world, right? And you get your own room and stuff. But
yeah.
So
Philippines. So Australia was always the last place on my list. I'm going to end up, I'm starting in Thailand. I'm ending in Australia because I'll see my girlfriend and her kids, who I haven't met. I went back for her wedding, but I hadn't met her kids. So I had a start and I had an end. And because I was only planning to be gone 3 months, Australia was initially going to be December.
Okay. And that's their summer, right?
Correct. So I went to so that ended up getting pushed out. So I ended up in Australia in March.
Okay.
And then went to Indonesia for 2 months. So Bali and some of the islands around Bali. And then went back to Australia for 3 months with the intentions of, okay, I left with the intentions of, I have no idea what I want, what I'm doing, where I'm going. But I am open to settling down and starting a life somewhere else. And then that ended up being Australia. And so ended there.
And you and I had a conversation. I mean, it feels like yesterday, but it was probably 6 months ago.
It was June.
Oh my gosh. So, and part of that conversation, it's fun having a friend that's a moving coach, because, you were like, here's where I'm at and what should I be thinking about? But it was interesting because your thought process wasn't like, should I move home? It was like, am I done exploring? I want to be in a community. I want to, and you've never been one to like settle down, but it was more like, I want to settle into a job that I find challenging and find purpose, but I also want to live in a place that I love and can build a community. And that was just not what you were finding at the time, right?
Yeah. And for me, I set myself up financially that a job was off the table.
Yeah.
So it was very much listening to my body and my intuition. And I had taken that Western thinking off the table. So it was very much, I want a community. I want to feel home. And it's funny because you don't realize that actually a job gives you that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Community.
So when you remove that, it's very difficult and disorienting, and yeah.
But you're also a very friendly person. I mean, obviously, look at the way we met, and you have no problem talking to anybody. But I felt like at one point you were getting to that point where you were like kind of retreating inside, and you were like, it's hard to make friends as an adult. And I was like, gosh, if you have a hard time making friends, think about what introverts feel.
Yeah. It was trying. I mean, before we hopped on the podcast, I went back through my journal, and up until literally a week ago, and I'll let you insert the dates there whenever you air this, but up until a week ago, all the way from June, yeah, like you said, I was really excited to set my feet down somewhere, build that routine, build that community. It's a roller coaster. It's daily. So even reading my journal back from June,
it about your journaling, because you've tracked all the places that you've been.
Yeah.
So because I hope you plan on publishing a book at some point, because I think that would be really interesting.
It would be very exposing. Maybe once I'm married. Yeah. The journaling, yeah, I think it's important. I tended to do it when I was feeling down. And then because I'm business oriented, or maybe in that Western mind frame, it was okay, well, what are some solutions? So there were things of like, well, what has brought me back joy when I'm feeling really down? And I know I'm an active person, so even just going for a walk, but the walk didn't always do it. It was smiling at a stranger. It was holding a door. It was like these high level engagements, or it was, what am I, if I was in a place to articulate it, what am I feeling?
Yeah.
And how do you overcome that?
And that was part of our conversation too, because I remember specifically asking you, because you were starting to get to that place where you're like, I'm not exactly sure what to do. And I could tell that your spark had diminished a little bit. And so I remember saying, like, what used to bring you joy? But you had gotten hurt. Like, you have always been an avid fitness, pro. You've always worked out, and that was a way that you got your energy, you got your release, and like worked off stress. And you couldn't do that at the time.
And meet people. Yeah. So I had hurt my neck and could not get to the bottom of it. I say that I set myself up financially, but you're still conscious. So I wasn't joining a $200 a month gym. I wasn't, going to the $30 a yoga class. And for my neck, I came from Asia where massages are $6 an hour. Now I'm in Australia where it's more expensive than the US. I mean, we're talking, oh gosh. So the price will be the same. You'll see 18 and then you're like, oh, it's US or it's Australian dollars. Yeah, it's quite expensive. So I wasn't exactly eager to go get a $140 massage for my neck. So it was, and also, yeah, it was low. It was tough.
And you were looking at jobs at that point, and you were considering moving, I think, to Sydney, right?
I had a job opportunity in Sydney. I didn't plan. Not that everything needs to be planned, but general ideas and research aren't the worst. So I didn't realize like the work visa for Australia, the particular one I had in mind was only good for certain age ranges that I wasn't in. So then I realized, okay, well, I need to be sponsored then. So I do need to go back to these corporate, larger companies that I have experience with. Yeah.
Well, and we've always worked in technology.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's one thing to note is that every industry is different. The company that I work for currently, we don't sponsor, or at least we used to not sponsor. Now we're a global company, so it's a little bit easier because you can find, we're in a lot of different countries. But generally speaking, it is the larger companies that will pay for sponsorship because it's expensive.
Very.
You have to have a time commitment, don't you? If you're going on a sponsor?
They didn't give me a time commitment, but it was a pretty rigorous. I listened to one of your podcasts, and you mentioned, when you're moving somewhere that a lot of places move, and it's highly competitive. I mean, it was to my advantage. I was already living there, so they knew the commitment, and they pressed me on it. Why here? Had you been before? They did a really good job of making sure. I mean, I'm not there anymore, but I didn't leave the job. I didn't let them go through with the process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are so many joys to moving. And I think that part of the reason that this came about, because this wasn't, speaking of not planning, like you and I, like talking on the podcast wasn't planned, but you and I had a conversation the other day that just broke my heart. And even though you're on the other side of it, depending on the day, I think that one of the things that we got to in our conversation was the fact that you couldn't even articulate how you were feeling because you were a little bit paralyzed, and the stress of moving, and plus you had a significant loss in your family. Like, you are incredibly close with your parents. And so moving back to, and, I'm sure they didn't, it's not that they didn't care if you moved back to the U.S. They weren't encouraging, like, we need you back here because we love you and we want you here. They love that you love to explore. I know your mom has gone out and visited you in some of the places that you lived because I've seen the pictures. But it was a consideration, and you were like, that community is incredibly important to me. And you did miss your family and you did want to be back here in spirit. But then also you were like, but I also am committed to staying. And I think there was a several month period where you kind of started diminishing and going down kind of a darker path because of the experience, and like the decision was paralyzing. And so you and I having this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you were willing to come on the podcast. And
Yeah.
because this is the side of coaching that people don't get to see. Like, they think of moving as a fresh start and it's so exciting and like, let's YOLO and like, let's just go and do it. And then it's the other side of it that you're like, shoot, what did I just do? And especially like I recorded a conversation with my best friend who is a therapist and an ADHD specialist. Like, I have ADHD. I've got a pretty severe case of it, but a lot of times, like when you have ADHD as well, like you make these spontaneous decisions and then all of a sudden you're like, crap, now I have to either live with it or change. Right. And so like you were going, not that you have ADHD, but like you were going through this conversation, and I said, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you reach out to me? And you're like, I couldn't even articulate what I was feeling.
Or what to, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you can now. So maybe let's walk through whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
And what, kind of where you were thinking about, and then all of a sudden, like, kind of what surprised you about this whole thing.
I think the biggest thing is whether you planned it to the T or you planned nothing, you will feel this way. And it's okay. And when I say you will feel this way and it's okay, if you're not feeling, you're not living. So I think the biggest thing is it's okay. It's okay. You're not alone. Like you said, Mariette, everyone sees, I was getting text messages of, you're living the dream. And well, no, I just broke down an hour ago because I took the bus that was an hour late, and then I missed the train, so then I missed my boat. It doesn't matter that I put the 3 methods of transportation together meticulously the day before.
Right.
It happens. It's okay. And for me, like you said, like it was compounded on like life. It's life. It's life.
So stressful.
It's so stressful, but it's life. And I think, I'd be breaking down, crying, laughing at myself because I know I'm exhausted and I know I haven't eaten. It doesn't mean I'm not breaking down and that I know it's not justified, but it's like, I think I said to you, it's like anxiety coming out of your eyes.
Right. Well, because when you were thinking through some of this, I think part of it was like the decision to leave Australia and come back home and what that meant. But then it was also like, where do I live? Do I get a temporary apartment? I mean, I know you had mentioned like, should I get something furnished? Because you own a property in Chicago, but you had renters, right?
Correct.
You couldn't move?
Correct. And then I have a property in Arizona that's rented furnished only until March. So it's like, okay, well, then do I get a place furnished in Chicago until March and then move my furniture here? Or do I just sit? And I think part of looking back is I knew in Australia, if it wasn't Melbourne, Australia, it's Chicago. If I can't be in the culture, I want the culture to be with me. So a city is for me. I need the options of activities. Even if I don't do them, I need them. So where you helped me when I was living in Australia breaking down was think about what you like and what you need in a place to live. And again, I was grateful to have taken like the job part and the economy off the table from like a macro perspective and just think about me. And that was my goal. And I don't think in the past I would have ever said community or family. But what the time off showed me is who was I calling when I felt down? I wasn't just going to a new gym and that wasn't filling my cup. It was my people that were filling my cup. And so even in Australia, you know, if you're moving somewhere within a time zone, they could fill your cup. But when I'm 18 hours opposite, I didn't even have my people.
Yeah. You had a window.
I had an hour in the morning for the US if my friends didn't have work. And I had like 2 hours in the evening for my Europe friends. So it was lonely to the extreme.
Do you think that that's what it was? Is this the loneliness?
Yeah.
Ja?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't even say nostalgia. It was lonely. So when you say talk like starting from scratch, Australia was the epitome of starting from scratch. It wasn't London where I could get on the plane for 4 hours and see somebody, or 3 hours, or where people are coming, going. You are about as remote. You are on a remote island in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
So that was massively part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of like the framework that I coach around, the ecosystem thing came from me moving all over the country and having to rebuild my friendships and, you know, stay in touch with other people, because it wasn't like, you know, when I moved away from Chicago originally, you know, all my friends from college, they moved on, right? Like I still talk to them here and there. And it's been cool because I'm reconnecting with a few of my girlfriends that I was in a sorority, and a couple of my girlfriends from college. But it's like I'm not in their day to day. I'm not talking about what their kids are doing or what's happening or what their Halloween costumes are. It's like I talk to them, I catch up, we are good for another month or two, and then we catch up again in another month or two. So it's like when you are in a new city, one, as an adult, I feel like it's hard to build friendships, right? Like very good, deep, meaningful friendships where like you and I can catch up. I don't have to go through my history, my background. Like you just know me because we've known each other for 13 years. But there's a lot of times when you go into a new community, like I moved to Charlotte. I have a couple cousins that live here, one cousin that is an hour away. And then when my brother moved here, it was like so nice because I had an instant best friend to do things with, right? So we got to explore. But I've been building a relationship for 2 years with my neighbors and I adore them. But it's still like I still have to tell the old stories and I have to give context. And so it's like, it's different.
Yes.
Like unless you plant roots or you are in a place where you can make friendships through things like going to a gym or like finding a hobby, like even sometimes like that, if you're not moving when you're mentally in a great place,
yeah,
really hard to like then push yourself out to go out and like you told me a story the other day about how you have a friend that you like met where, you know, she invited you to a party and you were like, I'm not party ready yet. I'm just like, you know, stay at home and watch Dateline ready. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there were a lot of things you taught me when we chatted in Australia that were, and that's what I think it's so important to find your piece of routine. You know, Australia, to your point of old friends. So I moved there thinking, okay, my best girlfriend that I met in university lives there. I flew back for her wedding. We traveled with each other for probably 2 months all over Europe together. So like we've had these amazing experiences. I'll go back and I'll have that safe place. But we had actually grown apart. So I think one thing you taught me was you have to find these things within. If yoga is your thing, if a gym class is your thing, if pottery is your thing, you have to invest in you and cut the coffee out every morning if it's a money thing. You have to prioritize you without external factors kind of bringing those to you. That was one of the main things. I joined a women solo traveling Facebook group, which was huge because the one I'm in is very strategic. So you have a format that you post so you can meet people that are like-minded, that are either living in your city and interested in the world and culture, or traveling to it, and you could host. So that's huge for building a network. Bumble BFF.
Even it has a bed. You mentioned it the other day.
Epic. Yes. The same way you search for a partner, you know, the women have their profiles of what they're into. And I've met close friends there, actually.
Yeah. I know Meetup in a lot of cities is really...
Meetup is, I'm not, my cup wasn't full enough for a group. I had enough energy for like me to survive and enough in my cup for like a person. But some people do it in a group. It's like lower pressure. I'm better one-on-one. Like, I'm strategic about my circle, especially on this journey. I've become more vulnerable and more in touch, and I don't want to be happy all the time. It's not me. I just want to be me.
I am so excited to introduce you to the Silk & Sonder Monthly Planner. As a culture, we're more stressed, anxious, and burned out than ever. Without proactive practices in place to combat the stress of modern life, we're falling short of achieving that deeper fulfillment we crave. At Silk & Sonder, we meet you where you are, uncover where you want to go, and help you define a path that aligns with your values and goals. I am proud to be one of their ambassadors because I've tried several monthly, quarterly, and annual planners, and I needed so much more since I'm a multi-passionate person that travels almost weekly. I love that a new theme self-care journal is delivered to my doorstep every single month. It's filled with science-backed prompts and coaching exercises, trackers, and planning pages. Plus, there's an exclusive app with audio affirmations and community events. To join our community, go to Marriott'sOnTheMove.com and check out my faves page to learn more. Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me since I just happen to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing. And their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties. So essentially, robustness approved. Now back to the show.
Yeah, so I left looking for this like external fulfillment and really realized in Australia talking to you of well, what is my routine? What is going to make me happy? What do I need? And then execute kind of there. And then the decision to come back was really after that. It was, and I think the best piece of advice, I use the word decision. Nothing is permanent. If I decide to move and I hate it, I'm leaving.
Right.
If I decide to take a job and I hate it, I'm leaving. This has changed me significantly, though. Like, because the American way is, well, you stick it out. It's a job and you're not supposed to be happy.
Right.
So, so a lot of those things, but coming back has been, there's two sides to every story. It's great I'm traveling, and everybody that's sitting at home with their husband and 2 kids is saying, wow, the grass is so green. And I'm saying, well, Heidi, I would rather be on my couch with my husband I don't have and my 3 dogs.
Right.
So and then, moving back to Chicago, I haven't had to interview for a job in 15 years. So like I was saying, there's two sides to everything. I get to build the exact life I want. If you would have asked me that in the last 2 months, I would, well, you get to do anything you want. Well, no, I can't do, everything's out of my control. I can't choose where I work. I could choose where I interview. I could choose where I live if I could afford it. And then do I want it furnished? Do I want it not furnished? What do I do with my furniture in Arizona? And so it was, to your point, so freaking overwhelming, almost analysis paralysis. You just pick something and do it. And it's not permanent.
Yeah, we often think in like year-long terms, I think, because it's, like that's, leases are a year long. But there's so many good options out there between Airbnb or even like we don't often think about like, hey, friend of mine in this suburb, like I know you have a guest bedroom. Can I crash there for 3 weeks?
Yep. And that, yep.
But like even just getting back into your community, and not to say, like, I know that this is the hard part about moving, right? Is all of the decisions and fall on you. And you're like, what if I make the wrong decision? We have options, but we don't often think about them like that. We don't think about them in an optimistic way. We think about them in like, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. And like what you went through, you were already, you're confident. Like you are one of the most confident people I've ever met. You are always confident in your decisions. And for you to kind of have that like wavering, right? That probably weighed heavily on you as well because you're not used to wavering.
Yeah.
And you had a loss in your family, which wasn't planned, obviously. Right? So that's the part of this foundation that like, as you're going through the moves that you have to think about, like, what if this happens? Like, not to say that, everybody experiences like grief like that while they're moving, but like if you're not mentally strong and something throws you a curveball,
oh, you're crumbling. And when we say curveball, Mariette, just to put things in perspective, my Halloween costume didn't show up on time and I bawled. And it doesn't have to be a death in the family. It doesn't have to be, it's literally the throw pillow you wanted. And I'm like laughing as I'm bawling because I'm like, this is hysterically like ridiculous.
Well, and the apartment that you went to go rent.
Yeah. The first one. Yeah. Geez. Yeah. And so, and I think of things as closing the circle. So like, okay, I'm moving. Here's my plan. There's so many variables. For me, I just learned last week, so a week ago Friday, 8 days ago, for me, closing the circle is no matter what, I'll be okay. And for me, and it's that confident. It's that I'm educated. I have a brain. I have family I could stay with. It might be on the couch. I have food. So no matter what, for me, closing the circle was, I'll be okay. If I sign a year lease and I break the lease for $5,000, I'll be okay. I might have to work harder, work longer. I might have to stay on the couch an extra month. I'll be okay. I have a couch.
Always says everything is figure outable.
Everything is. We're living. It has to be.
It has to be. And we don't often think about putting ourselves back into the community to ask for help, right? You have this, like, a lot of people are living outside of their means, so they're already taxed when it comes to, like, their finances and, like, mentally what you can handle from a capacity perspective. And part of when I, why I was so heartbroken, because I was like, why didn't you call me? And you're like, I couldn't even articulate what to say. But that's the thing, is that sometimes just asking is saying like, hey, I need to like just sit in silence for a second, but I need support and I don't know what to do. Like even sometimes saying that,
Oh, totally. I mean, and even just hearing you offer it when you did filled my cup. of like, so it really emphasized of like the reaching out, but reaching out to the right people, of to exactly your point. Like, I just need you to be here. Like, even on the phone, like, just with me.
Here. Yeah. We don't have to talk about the move.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about other things.
Yeah.
I think that that's what's important about having, it's like, it takes a village, right? Having a buddy or two that, like, when you are about to embark on this, going to two different people that you know are not going to judge, they're going to let you listen, or they're going to listen, being able to say, listen, I'm considering moving. This is going to be a journey. Would you be my, like, moving pal?
100%. And someone that's done it and can relate helps block out the noise. I mean, for the people that are sent, and it's really difficult without it, because you're getting the text of how exciting, you're going to meet all these new people. And so everyone's perception that hasn't done it is that it is so cool and you're so brave. And so you're kind of, it's almost harder to feel worse because you don't think you're supposed to.
Well, yeah, you're almost being told, like, your feelings and emotions about being
Totally.
aren't worth it or aren't rational.
Totally. So then you talk to someone that's done it and you're like, oh, so you had you cried too every day? That's normal? Oh, like, I went on dates thinking like that was going to fill me up. And it was like, I didn't even feel like I had anything to offer. I was like, how did these people even like me? Like, I'm cute, but like, should I just not open my mouth? Like, you just start searching so when you have that person like you in particular, who's not only educated on like the feelings and the emotion side of it, but has gone through it, and isn't this like, I hate that, like, the word toxic is so negative, but this like perception that everything's supposed to be great and new and lovely. It is like the freaking opposite. Like, I, as an adult, I don't think I could talk to anybody that's moved and been like, oh my God, it was the best first 2 weeks of my life.
I know, movies suck.
Zero. Literally zero. Like, any girlfriend or guy friend I've talked to that's moved has been like, the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks was a roller coaster of emotion.
It is a stressful, traumatic experience, even in the best circumstance.
Oh, there's gold at the end of the rainbow always.
Yeah.
But there's clouds, there's rain, there's thunder, there's lightning to freaking get there.
Yes.
So having someone that's able to like coach you through the rain, the thunder, the lightning, like remind you who you are when like you can't see it, and remind you that the gold is there and that you are still capable of getting there, is like so critical. I mean,
it's important too, because anxiety is normal in a move. And I think that that's like, if you are, you should expect the anxiety, right? And I almost feel like the absence of anxiety in a move is not normal, right? If you
correct.
come through life where, everything, like, you don't care about anything, that's almost when you should be concerned, because they say it's the most stressful event, only second to divorce, right? Neither of us are married.
Wow. Do they really
have much to compare it to in that realm? But I think that that's when we take it one step further and say, okay, what is rational and what's not rational? And I think having somebody to say like, hey, I just bawled my eyes out because my Halloween costume isn't here, even though I have a million things that I could dress up as. Am I on, like, what's going on?
Mariette, I didn't even want to go to the party.
Yeah.
It was like this loss of control, perceived control. It was hysterically wild, out of control.
Like you. And I think that that's where you get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? Why am I feeling this way? And it feels like this dark cloud is following you everywhere, but that's normal. And if somebody doesn't say, like, of course, Holly, you have anxiety. Of course you're feeling this, because this is that, like, funk that you're in that you get when you're moving, because you're biologically transitioning to a different realm, right? You haven't yet closed out the old part of you in that old chapter, and you haven't quite started that new chapter. You're in the funk in the middle. Like, what with the preface? You're in the preface right now.
Yeah.
Hard to see that when you're in the middle of it, because all you're living that 24/7, right? But it comes in waves, right? It's just like grief, where you have to have that biological release, where sometimes crying feels so good, but you don't want to cry, because then you're like, should I cry? Should I not cry? But having that prep and saying like, well, of course that's normal.
Yeah.
You're leaving something that you thought was going to be amazing. And just a year ago, you were like, I'm going to live there forever, and now you're like, well, a long time.
Yeah.
And
then you're afraid of like, without that coach and that support, it is, added pressure of this, everyone's supposed to think you're happy, and everyone, you don't want to be a failure if you're not happy. And, what does that look like to everybody else? If it's not everything it was built up to be this second.
Yeah.
It also takes time.
It does. It takes time. And a lot of people that don't move or haven't moved in, a decade or two, partially don't move because of that. Like, I know people that absolutely hate where they live, hate it, but they won't leave, right? So it's almost like we look at the two sides of the coin, one moving all over or moving just in general to find that better life, and then getting there and being disappointed. A little bit of planning could take you to the next level, right?
And your system is epic for that. Of like, what am I missing and what am I looking for? And how do I set myself up to successfully find that?
Right, because look at Chicago. There's 37 different neighborhoods within Chicago. You could move to Logan Square and realize your heart's really in the Gold Coast, but not realize it because you haven't spent any time there and don't know the difference between the two things. You just see like, I'm moving to Chicago.
And you said, actually, now you're bringing up something that was so cool that you said in Australia. I was living in an area that I thought I really liked. And I said, but I'm so overwhelmed because like when I go to a coffee shop, there's a million coffee shops to choose from. And then it's like, I don't really get to know anyone or feel homey. And you were like, okay, well, maybe you should look at a different neighborhood that's still in the city, but maybe a little bit smaller and more quaint. So you're it was just the process of having someone clear-minded, not going through it, and someone with clearly a proven process to be that voice of reason that like I know I have but couldn't find. So I was going even deeper into this hole was so valuable.
It's just a different perspective. And I think that that's the thing, is that like what used to bring me joy doesn't bring me joy anymore. Right? Like this is so silly, but like, I was like, I want roller skates. I used to love roller skating, and I bought roller skates and I went a couple times and I was like, okay.
But being okay and being okay with not being okay with it anymore. How literally, to your point, to like our point, no decision also has to be final. And I think that's where you get caught too, when without a coach or a mentor, or someone like you to talk to, if you're in this dark place and you try roller skating because you used to like it and now you don't like it, who am I? I just go deeper.
Yeah. I don't know who I am.
Oh,
to be.
It's a spiral.
I know that there's a couple things that I personally, like for me, I have to have a Pilates studio. Pilates brings me joy, and I didn't do it for the first 2 years I was in this house. I just got back to it because obviously I went through all the stuff with my back and I couldn't do it. But ironically, when I went to physical therapy and all of the exercises were Pilates exercises, I remember feeling this spark of hope. And like, not only did it used to bring me joy, but like, this is going to help me, and this could potentially keep me from going back to the pain that I just experienced.
Yeah.
To me, like, Pilates is important. I like Starbucks, but I love craft coffees, right? I love being close to a craft coffee shop. Ideally, I would love to be in a place where I could jog to a Pilates studio. Like the best shape I was ever in was when I lived literally 1 mile, almost exactly. I was living in the marina in San Francisco. I was 1 mile from the best Pilates studio. In fact, just this morning, the woman that owned, Laura Hudson was the woman that owned the Pilates studio, and I'm blanking on the name of it. I can picture the logo because it was super like creepy and dark, but it was awesome. It was like this head. It was like a head, and like the hair was like dripping down. I don't know. It was, I'll have to find it and post it.
Yeah.
She did a DVD, like a Pilates DVD, and she sold them there too. And that's what I've been using as my physical therapy. But I would jog to the Pilates studio, and it was right across the street. They had an awesome coffee shop. I would grab a coffee on my way home, and then I'd walk home. And I was in a killer shape. But I realized I love craft coffee and I love Pilates. And so for me in my next home, because right now I'm in a subdivision that's far out. It was an up and coming area, which I'm grateful for the equity that I'm building in my home. But at the same time, like I would rather pay a little bit more to be within walking or jogging distance of a Pilates studio and a craft coffee shop so I can take my dog, walk there, grab my coffee, and head home. Because if I look back to all the places, when I lived in New York City, I was close to both. When I lived in Chicago, remember my cool place in Lake?
Yeah.
Intelligentsia. In fact, when I went to go look for that apartment, it was like in the afternoon, and I walked in and the apartment smelled like coffee, and I was like, I don't care.
Let's go.
Like, this is my home. Like, I love this place.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that, like, we all have that list, right? We all have those things that, like, in a time frame, right? Like, if I was a 10-minute drive from someplace right now, I'm 10 minutes from a great craft coffee shop, but I'm 30 minutes from the Pilates studio. So now I have had to redo, like I rejoined the Pilates studio that I was going to here that used to be 15 minutes from my old place or 10 minutes from my old place when I was renting, building this house. Now I'm 30. So now I have to go at night, which I'm more of a morning person. Like, stay in Pilates, that's great, but now I'm having to adjust. So like if you can take, you can even look on Google. Like if you have an idea of where you want to be and look, throw in Pilates studio in that zip code, like figure out what neighborhood it's in and if that's possible. Like whatever it is that's on your list, like for me, like I also miss going to Whole Foods. I know it's super expensive, but I loved their generic brand chicken. Sounds so silly, but now I would drive 30 minutes to go to a Whole Foods to get the good chicken.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So little things like that like taking into account, one, the community, but two, like that ecosystem and what you need to have in it to feel at least somewhat sense of a routine and normalcy that can pull you back in. You can build friendships, but that routine, that like
totally critical. Yeah.
Where are you at today? Like, tell me how you're feeling today, because you're only a couple weeks into this.
Yeah. So I am Thursday was 3 weeks. So I'm 3 weeks into it. It's in another, the saying is in another language, but in English it translates, you can't eat an elephant in one bite.
Yeah.
So it's taken me 3 weeks because I moved into a minimally furnished apartment. So I need nightstands. And when I say need, I don't use that loosely. My home is my sanctuary and my peace. So I needed to make this apartment feel home on a budget. I got $20 nightstand. I needed to come home and feel home. I'm interviewing for a job. My uncle who passed, I'm taking care of his house. I'm the only one in town. So before it's winter, it needs to be winterized and roofed. This is my elephant, and everyone's going to have their elephant. Your kids need to find a school and get acclimated. Your kids have activity. Part of your elephant is Pilates. Part of your elephant is coffee. And you can't eat an elephant in one bite. And if you don't have a plate and silverware, you're not going to be good for anybody else. So for me, that meant I needed nightstands first and just silo my focus. And I needed home to feel comfortable. Okay, the next part of my elephant was, okay, 9 to noon, 9 to 1 every day, I'm going to spend applying for jobs and networking, because that is my second most important. How am I going to pay for my next apartment if I'm not having,
Right.
a job? So that was part of it. And just to reiterate, I do have the 2 properties that are giving me a small amount of income.
Yep.
So I'm grateful for that because it's helping. And then your third part of the elephant is, okay, well, I have my local coffee place. I love coffee and it's important for me. That's part of my community or my Pilates. Okay. And then, so when I was supposed to be, interviewing and informal interviewing and networking from 9 to noon, if I found on Facebook Marketplace the nightstand I wanted, that was still my number one.
Yeah.
I still needed to go get it. Couldn't beat myself up about it, even though my Pilates was at noon. So you just have to break your elephant up logically. Indeed.
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to prioritize when you're overwhelmed.
Whew, you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing, is that journaling helps. That's definitely something. Like, I don't love journaling because I have a graveyard of journals that I've started, and in my head, I feel like I have to do it every single day, but you really don't.
No, and I don't. So I write down when I'm feeling down, because like before you and I chatted, I went back and it was like, and then I started a therapist because it was like, okay, I'm finding this feeling often.
Yeah.
Is there something bigger, or have I learned from it? So I don't do it daily. I don't do it when I don't want to. It's actually in my notes on my phone, so I could search a keyword. Like, I searched spiraling every time I'm spiraling because I'll look. So what brought that on? Was there something I did after that I felt better about? And again, if it's the same thing that's bringing it on, what am I doing to put myself in those situations?
Yeah. Yeah, I've told people in the past, and I used to co-chair the mental wellness business resource group for CDW. And we kind of kicked it off, and all of us did a profile that went out to 15,000 people. And it was interesting because men have a harder time with this than women, in admitting or saying when you have a hard time doing something, or even reaching out and asking for help. But one of the things that I had put in there is that when I feel like I'm getting into a funk, and it's, again, anxiety is normal when you're going through a move, but when that anxiety persists or worsens over the course of, several weeks, several months, that's when you really need to kind of take a step back and say, like, maybe it's time to talk to somebody, whether it's a friend, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach. But I started keeping a list of the things that when I need to feel better, that I can do. And if I've gone through that entire list, I have 10 things on my list. One is, how am I eating, right? So, gluten and dairy for me are the 2 things that cause anxiety and depression. Am I eating clean? Probably not at that point, right? So that's one thing that's simple, that within a couple days, I can start lifting my mood. Am I moving my body, whether it's a 5 or 10 minute walk outside, or am I working out? Am I going to church? Am I, taking a spiritual practice in? Am I meditating? And meditating for a lot of people doesn't have to be like sitting in Om and, like listening to sound bowls. It could literally be, for me, like Pilates. And when I'm in Pilates and I'm like my Pilates instructors a lot of times don't count, right?
So do you know what, actually, if I could jump in on that. So that was something I learned over the journey, that meditating is just when you are fully present in your body. So for men, you could be meditating while you're at the gym. If you're not counting and you are just, I call it focusing on your 5 senses. So it's your, what do you smell? What do I hear? What do I see? What do I feel? So it's just your happy place. And so, yeah, a lot of, because you said it's very hard for men to like articulate or admit they need help. But to your point, having a list, you know, and a coach can help you identify these things. Is it going for a 4 minute? I'd gone to the gym for 16 minutes.
Yeah. Showing up. Showing up is such a mindset, like, relief.
Drive there, sit in the parking lot. And if you don't want to go in, don't go in. But like, okay, most of the time you will. But yeah, for meditation and being mindful, I mean, top athletes do it. And it's to each their own. It is not an hour. It is not 30 minutes. It is not 10 minutes. It is not 5 minutes. It is whatever works for you that day. And when it's broken down like that, it's so much less intimidating. I actually found it on the back of a motorcycle taxi in Manila, Philippines. I could not wipe the uncontrollable smile off my face. It was the wind. It was my whole body got tingles. It was a new neighborhood we were going through.
It's a visualization, right? You take yourself back to that place by listening to a song or just sitting there and picturing that song. And I think that people don't realize how simple that can
and how unique it is. It is whatever works for you. A lot of people say the gym is my therapy. The gym is my therapy. I am most of the time, the goal is to be fully present. I put my phone on silent. I have music, but I put my phone on silent. There's no alerts. And that is my mental therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going into the journey of a move, it's important to have those anchors. And if you don't have those anchors, figuring out what those anchors are before you commit to the journey. Because that's something that you're going to rest on, whether it's a picture, a visualization, a song, a guided. I do a lot of guided visualizations because, again, going back to the fact that I have ADHD,
I can't do silent either. Nah.
Yeah. My brain goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think those anchors are incredibly important. And I think that it doesn't matter how confident you are in yourself. If you have those anchors, you can get to that place really quickly. And the more you practice that, right?
You have to. And that's what I tried to eat the entire elephant because I'm confident, I'm capable, I'm smart, I got this. It'll be what it'll be. Otherwise, I'll figure it out. And holy shit.
Yeah. You can be triggered instantly.
And without those anchors or a coach to remind you, good luck.
It's just prepping. I mean, that's why I love this podcast and like what we're putting out there. Like for me, for a long time, like again, I don't have children. I have nobody to give this information to, but I found over the years, a lot of people would be like, they'd be mid-move and they'd be like, how did you do this 18 times? I'd be like, I have my list and I have my anchors but that's the thing is that a different perspective, even just listening to our conversation if it helps one person say like, listen, I'm about to embark on a move. I don't know anybody there. I've been dreaming about going to this place and being able to say go and spend 3 weeks there first and do a city POC or proof of concept and see if you really want to do it or do a bake-off between 2 different cities before you commit to moving. That at least gives you the preparation to think okay, this is what I could run into. If Holly, who is super confident and has lived and, worked all over the world or,
I'm not,
could experience this, maybe I should prepare myself because I haven't, right?
But even, and I'm adding this on purpose because I'm not a planner. Even mid-move, you've made the decision to move, you think you've planned everything. You don't have the resources to do a POC. Still, even if you think you've planned everything, it is not going to go as you planned. It is not going to be what you expected. That 3 weeks was luxurious. That POC was great because ultimately your instincts, you were still on vacation. You hadn't moved yet. You had 0% commitment. The minute you committed, your subconscious goes, holy shit. If one thing, well, thank God I have a plan, but that's the biggest joke, plan. One thing falls up, I feel like you have to, those anchors you mentioned, having a coach to remind you of them and to remind you that it's okay and to give you the tools when inevitably something doesn't go as you planned, because it won't, I promise you, and it's okay. And when your couch is late and you cry and you order takeout, you can't afford it, but you've had takeout 4 nights in a row because you're just glad you're hungry for one. It's okay. Money comes, money goes. Be present. What are your anchors? What is here and now? Order the $60 Thai food because you'll make it back when you get a job. Like, these are things I've told myself of like, you know what? I haven't been hungry in 3 weeks, even enough to go grocery shopping, and I just want to walk across for Thai food. Can I afford it right now? No. I just want to eat. It's okay. It's all okay. It's okay. It's going to be a fucking mess.
Like they go through this, like, I should do this, I should do that. Like, stop shitting on yourself. I think I even told you that when we were talking when you were in Melbourne.
100%. Like,
this is always going to be a shit time. Get through it however you get through it, right? Some people numb out, some people drink alcohol, some people take a pot gummy, some people over-exercise. Whatever works for you in that moment, as long as it's not costly coping, right? As long as it's not costing you anything in your future, give yourself some grace. You're in transition, and it's really hard to do. Like, hey, this might feel irrational right now, but it's going to pass, and tomorrow I might feel better.
totally.
In any form of action, like I've said this often, I'm always, if somebody has some issue where they're feeling irrational and they want to DM me and like leave me a voice note as to how they're feeling, I'm always going to voice note you back, or I'm always going to write you back and tell you like, this is going to be okay. This too shall pass. Here's a visualization. Here's a tip. Here's a trick. Or I'm just here to listen. Do you want my advice? Right. I think that having a buddy through the moving process is always important, whether it's me, whether it's, obviously you've been through it now, finding somebody that can help you, just even sometimes just sitting and waiting, I think is important. There is joy, right? I'm a joyful mover, and I still even get stressed out. I've done this 18 times. I'm about to embark on my 19th, and I still get stressed out.
And I would think I'm a joyful mover too. Like, I love new places. I love exploring, but when it's a commitment, you have to remind yourself, I'm going to be okay. Nothing is permanent for the rest of my life.
Everything's figure-outable.
Everything is figure-outable. I will be okay. I am capable of figuring it all out.
I think it's important for you to find a buddy. I think it's important to have your anchors going into a move. I think there's a ton of joy in moving. You might not feel it in the moment. Having that hope on what it's going to be, visualizing what you're going to feel, and knowing that your anxiety is okay. I think that that's incredibly important. So thank you for sharing your journey, because I know you're a sharer, you're a connector, you're a networker, but at the same time, like, talking about raw emotion and how hard things are can sometimes be hard. I want to normalize it because it's
Totally.
And I think that if somebody can have that preparation and they can get into a point where like they know it's coming and they can recognize it and say like, oh, Marriott and Holly said this was going to suck and now I'm in the suck. I'm just going to take one bite of the elephant right now and I'm going to save the rest for later. That might be enough to get you out of that funk.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
I would love to actually connect with you again. Maybe we'll do like an Instagram live in like a month or two.
Yeah,
And see what's changed, because I think we often forget about the suck, right? Like,
yeah.
the further you get removed from the move, the further we remember like how bad the suck was. But I think that it'll be important for us to like check back in and
Happy to. And that's important to remember though too, Mariette, is like, it's not forever. Like, yes, it sucks, but it's a small point in time. So just feel the feels, and know that this too shall pass. Yeah. Thank you for having me. You're amazing.
So I know this is such an important conversation, and I'm very excited for everybody to hear it. So thank you.
Good. Have a good rest of your day.
Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. And making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.